For example part B, we're going to solve for negative 4x over x minus 1 plus 4 over x plus 1 equals negative 8 over x squared minus 1. Again, I would like to start by setting up which ones are my not solutions. Remember, you set all of your denominators equal to 0, and those would be your not solutions. I'll have x minus 1 equals 0, and so for x plus 1 equals 0, and so for x, and also x squared minus 1 equals 0, and so for x. It looks like after I add 1 on both sides, on my first denominator, my not solution would be 1. Let me start making a list. Not solutions. X cannot be 1. On the second one, after I subtract 1 on both sides, I have that x is equal to negative 1. So my second not solution would be negative 1. And finally, on the last one, I'll use the zero factor property. I will factor this one out as x plus 1 and x minus 1 equals 0. And after solving each one for x, setting equal to 0 and solving for x, I get the same solutions, or the same not solutions from the other two. X cannot be 1 and x cannot be negative 1. Okay, now that I have my not solutions, let's focus on following those 3 steps. First, multiply by my least common denominator. And it looks like my least common denominator will be this one, x squared minus 1, because it's these two multiplied together. Let me make some space so I can multiply them all. Negative 4x over x minus 1 plus 4 over x plus 1 equals negative 8 over x squared minus 1. And I'll use the factor form so I can see which one I'm going to be reducing. Remember, x squared minus 1, it's a difference of squares, and I can factor it out as x minus 1, x plus 1. X minus 1 times x plus 1, x minus 1, x plus 1. X minus 1, x plus 1. I multiplied here twice because I have to distribute in my two terms. I multiplied x minus 1 times x plus 1 times the first term and the second term on my left side of the equation. Now let's reduce what we can reduce. X minus 1 divided by x minus 1 is 1. And in the second term, I have x plus 1 over x plus 1, which is 1. And on the term on the right side of my equation, I have x squared minus 1 from the denominator canceling. I'm left with x plus 1 times negative 4x plus x minus 1 times 4 equals negative 8. Then I use the FOIL method to distribute my terms. X times negative 4x, it's negative 4x squared. 1 times negative 4x is negative 4x. X times 4 is 4x. Negative 1 times 4 is negative 4 equals negative 8. Negative 4x and 4x go away because it's 0, and I end up with negative 4x squared minus 4 and equals negative 8. I'm going to add 8 on both sides of my equation. And now I'll end up with negative 4x squared plus 4 equals 0. I'm going to focus on this part and I'm going to continue from here. Let me erase the rest of my work. From here, I'm still pending to solve for x. I'm going to factor out the greatest common factor, which is, in this case, I'm going to factor by -4. Greatest common factor. -4. In other words, I'm going to divide both terms by -4. I have -4 times x squared minus 1 equals 0. And then from here, I can factor out this as x plus 1, x minus 1 because of the difference of squares. And I set each of my factors equal to 0. Because this is a number, when you set it equal to 0, -4 equals 0 cannot happen. They're not the same. 0 is not the same as -4. So this is not a 0. This is not part of my solutions. I'll have x is equal to -1 and x is equal to +1, which both are part of my not solutions. So there's no solution. And let's take it a little bit further here, learning a little bit of notation. When there's no solution, we say we have the empty set as a solution. This is not a 0. It's an empty symbol, meaning that there's nothing in the set. Make sure that you understand that this is not the same thing as 0. Because if I put a 0, that means 0 is my solution, the number 0. But we don't have any solution. We use this symbol, the empty set symbol.